It was a late night in the city when two famous movie stars, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, arrived at the Blackwood Hotel. The hotel was old, very old, with tall walls and fancy designs that made it look like something from a storybook. As they walked through the huge golden doors, their laughter filled the big, shiny lobby. They had just finished a long, tiring day of interviews for their new movie, and both of them were exhausted. Sandra wore a black blazer over a white t-shirt, and Keanu had on his usual dark jeans and an old leather jacket. The hotel lobby was grand and beautiful. Big, sparkling chandeliers hung from the ceiling, lighting up the soft red carpets on the floor. A giant wooden staircase curved up like a ribbon, its handrails shining under the warm lights. The air smelled like old books, polished wood, and something else, something they couldn't quite explain. "I can't believe we've never stayed here before," Sandra said, looking up at the fancy ceiling designs. Her voice was soft, tired after a long day. Keanu ran his hand along a smooth marble column and nodded. "This place has character," he said. "Feels like it's got stories to tell." Neither of them knew just how true those words would be. An old man named Edgar, dressed in a neat burgundy uniform, greeted them. His silver hair made him look wise, like someone from another time. He led them to their rooms on the 4th floor, walking with slow, careful steps. "These are our finest rooms," he said as he handed them their keys. "Many famous people have stayed here." Then after a pause he added in a quiet voice, "Some say these rooms feel different, almost like they're alive." Keanu and Sandra exchanged a look but said nothing. Inside their rooms, everything looked fancy and perfect. Thick, red velvet curtains covered tall windows that showed the twinkling city lights. The walls had golden designs and the furniture was old but beautiful, dark with chairs, soft armchairs, and lamps that shone like tiny stars. Sandra's room was on the east side and Keanu's was on the west. A pair of heavy wooden doors connected their rooms so they could visit each other anytime. "At least if we need to talk about tomorrow's schedule, we won't have far to go," Sandra joked. Keanu chuckled. It was comforting to know a friend was close by in such an old, quiet place. Edgar, the old hotel worker, hesitated at the door before leaving. He gripped the knob for a moment as if thinking of something to say. "If you need anything, just dial 0. Then he paused. "These walls, they can play tricks sometimes." "What do you mean?" Sandra asked. "The pipes," Edgar said quickly. "They make noises. Sometimes it can sound like..." He trailed off and forced a smile. "Never mind. Good night." The door closed behind him with a soft click, but the sound seemed to last just a little too long. Sandra and Keanu looked at each other again. They didn't say it out loud, but they both felt it. Something about this place was strange. They went into their separate rooms, too tired to think much more. Sandra took off her shoes and sank into a soft armchair, sighing. Keanu stood by his window, looking out at the bright lights of the city. Everything was peaceful. At least for now. 2:17 a.m. Sandra woke up suddenly. She didn't know why. Her room was freezing, far colder than before. She pulled her blanket tighter around her. The heater made a soft clicking sound, but instead of warming the room, it felt like it was blowing icy air. In the next room, Keanu stirred in his bed. He hadn't heard anything, but something didn't feel right. He had the strange feeling that someone was watching him. The moonlight shone through the curtains, casting shadows on the walls. But the shadows didn't seem right. They moved slightly, but not with the wind. Then a sound. A soft one, barely there. It could have been the wind. Could have been the hotel creaking. But no, it was whispering. Sandra sat up, her heart beating fast. The whispers were clearer now. They weren't coming from the pipes. They weren't coming from the wind. It sounded like voices. Many voices, speaking in hushed tones as if they didn't want to be heard but needed to be. She grabbed her phone and turned on the screen. No messages. No missed calls. Just the time blinking at her. 2:18 a.m. Then she heard it. A child's laugh. Then running footsteps. But not in the hallway. Not outside. Above her. But they were on the top floor. There was no room above hers. Keanu was awake now. He walked slowly to the connecting door, his bare feet making no sound on the floor. He reached for the handle but hesitated. The whispers in his room were changing. They weren't just whispers anymore. They felt urgent, like someone was trying to tell him something important. His breath was visible in the cold air now. Then the mirror on the far wall started fogging up. That shouldn't happen in a dry room. And then, words began to appear in the fog as if an invisible finger was writing them. "Remember 1922. A soft knock at the door made Keanu jump. "Keanu?" Sandra's voice was barely above a whisper. "Are you awake?" "Yeah." He opened the door. Sandra stood there, holding her phone like a flashlight. Her face was pale. "You're hearing it too?" Keanu nodded. "And feeling it?" Sandra took a shaky breath. "The air, it's like it's alive." As soon as she said that, the whispering got louder. It wasn't just one voice or two, it was many, circling them like a cold wind. The temperature dropped even more. Their breath curled in the air, foggy and white. Then the lights flickered. Sandra's eyes flicked to the mirror. The words were still there. "This is going to sound crazy," she said, her voice almost shaking. "But I don't think we're alone in here." Keanu stepped closer to the mirror, staring at the letters. "Remember 1922? He turned to Sandra. "What happened in 1922? Before she could answer, a noise filled the room. A loud, echoing thud. Then another. Then the connecting doors slammed shut between them. Sandra screamed. Keanu grabbed the handle and tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers turned into a chorus, overlapping, rising in volume. The lights flickered wildly, and then darkness. Total, complete darkness. Sandra and Keanu couldn't see each other, but they could hear their breathing. And they could hear something else. Footsteps. Getting closer. A child's laughter echoed in the room. The whispers turned into words, spoken clearly now. They know. They remember. The door suddenly flung open. Light returned. The room was empty. The whispers were gone. The air was warm again. Sandra and Keanu looked at each other, breathing hard. Then, slowly, they turned their heads back to the mirror. The words were gone. But a new message had appeared. Welcome back. He read the number out loud. As soon as he spoke, the whispers changed. They became clearer, like they were speaking right to him. A woman's voice, full of fear and urgency, rose above the others. Find the letter behind the mirror. The crystal lamps flickered and went out. The room became dark, except for the pale moonlight and the glow of Sandra's phone flashlight. In that moment, both Sandra and Keanu knew they were about to uncover something that had been hidden for a long, long time. A secret the Blackwood Hotel had kept since 1922. But were they ready for what they were about to find? The big Victorian mirror stood in front of them, its golden frame shining dimly. The glass was foggy, even though the air in the room was dry. Keanu ran his fingers along the mirror's edges, searching for anything hidden. Sandra held her phone light steady, casting creepy shadows on the wall. The whispers grew louder, almost like they were begging for something. There has to be a way, Sandra whispered, barely louder than the voices around them. She carefully traced the patterns on the mirror's frame. Then wait. Her fingers pressed on a small carved rose. A soft click sounded. The mirror moved forward slightly, revealing a hidden space behind it. Keanu reached in, his hand disappearing into the dark gap. His fingers touched something old. Paper. It felt fragile and crinkly. Slowly, he pulled out a yellowed envelope. The seal was already broken, and the paper was so delicate it might tear at any moment. As soon as they had the letter, the whispers changed. They became soft, almost relieved. But still, there was a feeling of hurry in them. June 15, 1922. Sandra read over Keanu's shoulder as he carefully unfolded the letter. The handwriting was fancy but messy, like someone had written it in a rush. The ink had turned brown with age, making some words hard to read. But the words they could make out made their skin crawl. My dearest Eleanor, they are watching me. The men from the bank say they will expose everything if I don't do what they want. The hotel's real owner, the missing money, the accident in room 412. But I can't let them destroy what we built. By the time you read this, I will have taken care of it. The truth is hidden where no one will think to look, behind the big painting in the lobby, inside the safe that doesn't exist. Remember our promise. Forever yours, Nathaniel. The air turned even colder. A sudden gust of wind, impossible in a closed room, made the letter tremble in their hands. The whispers became clearer. This time they could make out actual words. Lobby, painting, hurry. Sandra's phone flashlight flickered. We need to go to the lobby, she said, keeping her voice steady despite the strange things happening around them. Whatever happened in 1922 isn't over. They turned toward the door, but suddenly the whispers changed. They sounded panicked, warning them. The crystal lamps flickered back to life, glowing brighter than ever. Then, in an instant, they went out again. In that brief flash of light, Sandra and Keanu saw something that made their blood turn cold. A figure. A person from the 1920s, wearing old-fashioned clothes, stood in the mirror. He was pointing urgently toward the window. Keanu rushed to the window and peered outside. In the dark lobby below, moving lights shone through the windows. Flashlights. Someone else was in the hotel, searching. We're not the only ones looking, Keanu whispered. The question is, Sandra finished, clutching the letter tightly, are they trying to find the truth? Or hide it? A new sound filled the air, footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, slow steps. Steps that didn't belong to any hotel staff. The spirits around them became frantic. Their whispers turned into desperate cries. The footsteps were getting closer. Sandra and Keanu looked at each other. They had to make a choice. Run to the lobby and find the painting mentioned in the letter, or stay and face whoever was coming up the stairs. The whispers reached a screaming pitch. In that moment they both knew, this was no longer just about ghosts. They had stepped into a 100-year-old mystery. And now they were part of it. They made their choice in an instant. Sandra and Keanu rushed into the emergency stairwell just as the footsteps reached their hallway. The whispers followed them down the stairs, guiding them toward the lobby. The letter from 1922 felt heavy in Sandra's pocket. Its secrets were ready to be revealed. The grand lobby looked different at night. Shadows stretched and danced across the marble floors. The massive painting hung above the fireplace, showing the hotel as it looked in its early days. The oil paint still gleamed even after all these years. As they approached, the whispers became louder. The air turned freezing cold, so cold they could see their breath. Someone's coming, Keanu whispered, hearing footsteps above them. Sandra hurriedly ran her fingers along the painting's frame, searching. Then, her fingers found something. A tiny bump, almost invisible. She pressed it. Click. The painting swung forward, revealing a wall safe. A safe that, according to the hotel's plans, didn't exist. The whispers hit their peak. A woman's voice, clear as day, spoke directly into their minds. The combination, the date we opened, when everything changed. The hotel's opening date, Sandra breathed, remembering a plaque they had seen earlier. June 8, 1919. Keanu quickly turned the dial. 9. The safe door groaned as it swung open. Inside lay a leather-bound book and a stack of old photographs. As they pulled them out, the truth of 1922 was finally about to be revealed. They flipped through the photographs. Some were of the hotel staff, others of grand parties held in the lobby. But one photo stood out. It showed a man, Nathaniel, standing beside a woman, Eleanor. Behind them, a door was slightly open, revealing something dark beyond. Sandra gasped. This isn't just about money. There's more. Keanu nodded. Someone went to great lengths to hide this. And someone else is trying to keep it buried. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the lobby. They weren't alone anymore. Someone else had just entered the room. The first owner of the hotel, Nathaniel Lancaster, had a big secret. He was married to a woman named Eleanor, but they had to keep it hidden. Back then, people wouldn't have accepted her because of where she came from. But that wasn't the only secret. A special book called The Ledger held an even bigger secret. Nathaniel had been using the hotel to help people who were in trouble. He gave them a safe place to stay and new names so they could start fresh. Society had pushed these people away, but Nathaniel gave them hope. In 1922, some greedy bank workers found out what Nathaniel was doing. They told him they would tell everyone. If people learned the truth, Nathaniel and all the people he helped would be in big trouble. So, Nathaniel came up with a clever plan. He made it look like he had an accident in room 412, but it wasn't real. He pretended to die so he could escape with Eleanor. They left the hotel in the hands of a special group that would keep helping people in need. Now back to today. The sound of footsteps came closer. The lobby lights turned on. Edgar, the night manager, stood there with an old woman. Her eyes were filled with tears. I see they finally helped you find it, Edgar said softly. The old woman smiled and said, I'm Madeline Lancasterchin. Nathaniel and Eleanor were my grandparents. We've been waiting for someone to find out the truth and understand what this hotel really is. The whispers in the air became soft and peaceful. In the big mirror behind the front desk, Sandra and Keanu saw something amazing. For just a moment, they saw Nathaniel and Eleanor. They were young and happy, smiling at their granddaughter. Then they disappeared, leaving behind a warm feeling of love. Madeline carefully took the ledger in her hands. The hotel still carries on their work, you know, she said. We've just learned how to keep it a secret. Every room in this hotel has helped someone start over, even room 412. She looked at Edgar and he nodded. Some of our guests stay a little longer than others, he said, smiling. They watch over the hotel and guide the right people to the truth. The whispers slowly faded and everything became quiet. The air felt lighter, as if the hotel had been holding its breath for a long time and finally let it out. Through the windows, the first light of morning painted the sky pink and gold. The mystery of the night had been solved, but it left behind something even more special. It showed that some places in the world are more than they seem. Some places are safe havens where the past and present come together, where love and kindness can last forever. So, what can we learn from this amazing night at the Blackwood Hotel? Sometimes, the whispers we hear in the dark aren't just our imagination. They are stories waiting to be told, secrets waiting to be found. For Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, what started as a simple night in a hotel became something much bigger. They discovered history hidden in plain sight. The Blackwood Hotel still stands today. It looks just the same as it always has. Madeline Lancaster-Chin continues her grandparents' work, but she doesn't talk about it much. The hotel still helps those in need, just as Nathaniel and Eleanor wanted. As for Keanu and Sandra, they kept this story to themselves for a long time. When asked why they finally decided to share it, they both said something similar. Some places in the world feel special, Sandra said. The Blackwood Hotel isn't just a building. It's a reminder that kindness can last for generations. Keanu, always thoughtful, added, sometimes ghosts aren't here to scare us. They are here to remind us that the past is still with us. The good things we do can live on long after we are gone. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.